Welcome back to my channel, my first official video for the month of May. I thought it would be really fun to take a look at dolls that are actually based on real people that Mezco and Living Dead Dolls released over the years. Now, if you are watching this with someone younger, I highly suggest this is not for children. I will be talking about themes of murder, mostly murder. So please, this is strictly an adults only discussion. Okay, with that out of the way, let's take a deep dive into the dolls based on real people. The first doll is Lizzie Borden. She was part of series 2, released in October 2001. Now, the real Lizzie Borden was accused of murdering her stepmom and father with an axe, which is what the doll comes with. And she was not found guilty of the crime. She did spend some time in jail for about a year, but she was released. And the doll accurately captures the period clothing from the time Lizzie Borden was alive. Her likeness is pretty spot on. And like I said, I will be talking more about her, showing her chipboard, her death certificate, which features the famous Lizzie Borden poem. And the interesting thing with her, and later I talk about Jack the Ripper, Living Dead dolls have always alluded to other infamous people that have done bad deeds. But I feel like the dolls that they chose to depict have become more of legends, that the crimes themselves or the bad deeds that they've done kind of get lost, and these figures were sensationalized during their time, especially with Lizzie Borden. She was one of the first early American trial stories, in an age where there was no television or social media, but it was all over the newspapers, and her story even reached overseas. And I feel like there's other people that Living Dead dolls did acknowledge in terms of the dates on the death certificates. I will also talk a little bit about those figures later in the video as part of my honorable mentions. But I feel like Lizzie Borden and the others that you see here really are just part of that myth of the actual person. So it kind of becomes a little safe to talk about them versus other notorious people that Living Dead dolls over the years have alluded to, if that makes sense. Okay, so that is, get her to stand, that is Lizzie Borden. The next doll, I have talked about her in my previous video of dolls I obtained in 2024. This is Dahlia. She's known from the Black Dahlia murder, but the real person, her name was Elizabeth Short, who was an aspiring actress in Hollywood. And this is, the likeness is based on what she looked like when she was murdered. But here's a picture of what she looked like in real life. And in terms of the accuracy of the wounds on her and on the face, they are pretty spot on. I'm not going to share images of that. You can look that up yourself. She's part of series 5. And quick thing about Lizzie Borden and the Black Dahlia, they both share the same dates with their real life counterparts. So again, that's another added layer of confirmation of who these dolls are based on. So that is the Black Dahlia, who again, along with Lizzie, I will be talking about in more detail when I do the series doll videos. Yes. So the next doll is not based on a historical person, but she is based on a real person. If I could just get her alt. There you go. This doll here is named Tina Black. She was part of Series 10, which was released in 2005. She's based on a real-life fan and friend of the creator, so she goes way back. Her real name is Tina Minskoff, and she has contributed to the LDD page under the name Bettina Black. She shared her picture of what she wore based on what the doll was created on. So here's a picture of that. She's really cool. It's an exact replica of the dress. The only thing I wish the guys did was detail the hat more. As you can see in the picture, it's a very elaborate hat. She makes me think of Stevie Nicks or like a daughter of Slash, the guitar player. Her death date, the doll, is Tina's actual birthday, which is November 24th, 1966. And she actually was the first non-historical, non-celebrity person that they made a doll of. Now, the interesting thing with Tina Black is she also had another doll that was inspired by a look that she had, and that is Tina Pink. Now, here's a picture of the inspiration for Tina Pink. Now, it's not exactly a one-to-one scale in terms of recreation of the outfit like this one here, but it obviously is a great homage to that look. And like I said, she is an actual fan. She's a collector herself, and I think that is such a cool thing. I don't think many fans of any toy doll series can say that they have a doll that immortalizes them, which I think is so cool. So that is Tina Black. Here's another infamous person. This is Countess Bathory. She's based on a real Hungarian countess from the 1500s. The doll was released as part of Series 15 in 2008. The real person was accused of murdering a lot of people, mainly women, young women, and the legend goes is that she bathed in their blood. Now, the interesting thing is that she and a couple of other people she wasn't formally charged with the crime, but the people that allegedly were in cahoots with her to commit these alleged crimes were tried and they were executed. She actually stayed confined into her home, I guess their version of a house arrest back then, and she died in her sleep. Now, her death date, on the doll's death date, is almost the exact same date the historical countess died, but the date is wrong. The real countess died on August 14th, and Living Dead Dolls has her as August 21st, but the month and the year 1614 is accurate. And her period clothes is pretty cool. And again, I'll be talking more about her when I do future series dolls. But that is Countess Bathory. But one thing about when I was doing research, because I didn't want to make this a very lengthy video, there was a lot of other things going on. So whether or not it's true what she did, again, these crimes, they become like legends, and they become myth, and it really does blur what actually happened, and then versus what what the made up parts are, the fantasy part of it. So again, so this is Countess Bathory. Now the next doll, I'm not going to go in too much detail because I did talk about her on my Hot Topics exclusive dolls. So this is Captain Bonnie. What I didn't talk about in the video is that she, in case you're unaware, she is based on a real pirate named Anne Bonny, whose birth name was Anne Cormac. She was a pirate of all of 2 months in the 1720s. Now her death date is also in question because the real Captain Bonnie was arrested, but as the story goes, she claimed she was pregnant and she stayed her execution. But there's been debate if she lived out her life or she died on another date after said quote-unquote pregnancy. So not much is known in terms of her life. So it's of all the dolls, she's more loosely based on her historical counterpart. And she has reddish hair, and Bonnie was known to have red hair. She was never a captain. So again, that's creative license Living Dead Dolls did. And so her death date, according to Living Dead Dolls, what they chose on her death certificate was October 8th, 1722. And that date is approximately when she was imprisoned. But again, it's not known if she was executed after that date, or if she lived out to be an old woman and died of natural causes. But still, cool doll. And of course, based on a very popular historical figure that's been made into a legend of Anne Bonny. So that is Captain Bonnie. Now, this set, well, the main person should need no introduction. His resemblance to his real life counterpart is very spot on. But in case you don't know, this is Edgar Allan Poe, and he was part of a duo set of Edgar Allan Poe and Annabel Lee. This duo was released in 2007. No affiliation. They weren't a store exclusive or anything like that. Annabel Lee is actually the name of a poem that Edgar Allan Poe wrote in honor of his wife that passed away. Her name was Virginia. And the death date is the same as the author's real life day he died. I will be talking about these two at length in another video. Fun fact, these are actually part of the Presents line, one of the earlier Presents sets. So I will be talking more about them. Just to let you know, he does have a little book that he comes with. He also comes with a raven. But if you want to look up real close, it's Tales of Madness and Murder. But like the resemblance of the doll and the actual man is just so spot on. Like, they did such a good job with him. As for Annabel Lee, it's not a direct resemblance to his wife, Virginia. So, but really the focus is on Edgar. And like I said, just the detail of him, like even the little mustache, like really cool. I believe he's the first and only, I'm just looking at my dolls real quick. I think he's the first and only doll to have a mustache. There probably are, maybe there's another Presents character I'm not aware of, or I'm not thinking of right away, but I can definitely attest that he's the first mustache doll in the Living Dead Dolls history. So that is Edgar Allan Poe with his wife Annabel Lee. Annabel Lee in the set. Now, this guy, who, again, from the appearance, again, part of the whole fictionalize of what the past was, and the legendary status, and almost like this mythology, we have Jack the Ripper. So I did not come across a definite image of him, because to this day, he or she, again, when you look into the Jack the Ripper lore, it never was confirmed who the murderer was, if there was more than two, like a copycat. But this is one of the depictions of Jack the Ripper that's been publicized in movies and TVs. Like, he's a very gentleman figure, but of course with a murderous side. He was a UK exclusive for a company called Star Images. He was never released in the US, so I bought him on the secondhand market. He's limited to 4,000 dolls. The real Jack, or the compilation of who Jack the Ripper is, the murders occurred in 1888. And in the newspaper, again, very sensationalized, just like Lizzie Borden, they had different nicknames for him, actually. So here you have one depiction of him. And he was also called the Chapel Butcher and Leather Apron, which, interesting enough, Living Dead Dolls, when they resurrected him, they depict him with the apron. Now, it's not leather, so, but definitely another interpretation of him based on what was publicized at the time, which I thought was really cool. And I honestly did not know that when I first wanted to complete this particular resurrection set. I just thought it was, in terms of resurrections with Living Dead Dolls, they do different interpretations of the original doll. So I did not know this was an actual design based on a nickname Jack the Ripper was called in the newspapers, which is very fascinating. Now, like most historical accounts of Jack the Ripper, again, there's no clear identity of who he, maybe she, was. So there is no death date on his death certificate. Actually, his certificate is a letter of sorts. I'm trying to remember, but it's definitely not the traditional death certificate that many of these dolls have. I mean, with the exception of Captain Bonnie. So again, keeping up with the legend, the myth, that is Jack the Ripper. So last of my dolls is Holly Katrina. Now, the interesting thing with Holly Katrina is that she was part of a competition that Mezco had back in 2011, and she's based on the winner of the competition, whose name is Holly Katrina. Her look, I believe, was a design that Holly Katrina submitted, and that's what this doll was based on, not the actual person of Holly Katrina. But I included because, again, she has an actual name of someone real, and she's part of one of the best series of Living Dead Dolls, series 26, known as The Season of the Witch. And she's really cool. I couldn't find a picture of the real Holly Katrina, unfortunately, and I'm not sure if she's on any Facebook pages. She's German, so she might be on a page for, European collectors. I don't know. But I just thought it was really cool, again, how Living Dead dolls have this relationship with their fans. Again, how many doll series, toy companies can say that they have that close relation with their fans and they immortalize them? Again, just so cool. So her birthday is Holly Katrina's death date, and she does, I believe on her death certificate, which again, I will go in more detail, it doesn't have a death, it just has the poem celebrating her victory, which I thought was kind of cool too. And honestly, what an honor to be immortalized in a doll. So cool. And she's the second non-celebrity person that Mezco did, and that is Holly Katrina. So I'm going to talk about some honorable mentions. These are dolls that had elements that could be linked to real people, but they haven't been confirmed for obvious reasons. The first being, of course, the mascot, the one that started it all, Sadie. Now, there's two people Sadie's believed to be based on: a fictional person, Wednesday Addams, of course, and a real person by the name of Susan Sadie Atkins. She was part of the Manson family, but again, that has not really been confirmed. Her death date, I'm not sure if it correlates with Susan Atkins' birthday. Again, that wasn't confirmed. And the reason why, again, with Sadie, it has been confirmed is that she's missing something that the Manson family, the women, had, which was the X on the forehead. School Time Sadie actually has that. But School Time Sadie's face is actually Exorcist faced. And she's the only one of all the Sadie incarnations that has the X on her forehead. So, again, hasn't been really confirmed. So, that's Sadie, honorable mention. Another doll alluded to a real person is Schizo. He's part of Series 3. And he's alluded to be based on the serial killer John Wayne Gacy, who worked as a clown by day. I'm not going to share any pictures of what this person looked like. He did terrible things. He also was a serial killer. He also did other things. And again, it's not confirmed because his death date, Schizo's, has nothing to do with John Wayne Gacy. But you could definitely see images of him if you do a search online, and Schizo's appearance. They're very similar, just not exact replicas like Lizzie Borden and the Black Dahlia. So that is Schizo. Another honorable mention is Hollywood. She's part of Series 5, the same as Dahlia. Now, the interesting thing about Hollywood is that she shares a death date and same cause of death of a real movie star from back in the 50s and 60s named Jane Mansfield. Here's a picture of Jane Mansfield. Now, the way or the circumstances of Hollywood's death is nowhere near how the real Mansfield died. So that's why it's an honorable mention, not an exact replica like Dahlia was. And fun fact, she is mom to Law and Order actress Mariska Hargitay. Try saying that 3 times fast. And her death date is the same as Hollywood. So, but again, the circumstances around her death, which is on her chipboard, which again I'll go into when I talk about Series 5 and the other series, is nothing similar to the real Jane Mansfield. The only thing is how she died in terms of a car accident and the head trauma, which is depicted in the doll. So that is Hollywood. And my last honorable mention is this particular doll is Worm. He's part of Series 30, the Sideshow Freaks. Now, Worm is based on a person by the name of, well, he went by the name Prince Randian. He wasn't a real royal person, but that was his stage name. He appeared in the controversial 1930s film Freaks, and the costume that Worm wears is from the movie, but I'm not sure about the hat that he wears, or the fez, I think it's what it's called. I've never seen the movie. I've only seen images basically of him, usually just with the striped outfit. I never seen anything on top of his head. He shares the same death date as Prince Radian. Here's a picture of him with his wife. And fun fact, the prince and his wife, who was called Princess Sarah, lived out their days in New Jersey. And that is Worm. So there you have it. Those are the dolls based on real people that Living Dead Dolls and Mezco released. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool topic to talk about. And I really hope it inspires you to dive into the history of all these dolls that they based on, with the exception of Tina Black and Holly Katrina. And again, if you're interested of these dolls, definitely do your research. Or if you want to wait till I get around to doing the series videos to further explore them in detail, definitely stay tuned for that. And as always, happy hunting.